After a long break due to school problems, I'm back again. We are starting where we left off. Guts rode into a forest while being followed by a dozen of enemy soldiers. For a while he is keeping his ground and trying his best to run away, but he almost falls off his horse once. Luckily, he manages to get his balance back, but at that very moment one of the enemy soldiers shoots an arrow that hits Guts' horse, making him fall off. As the enemy soldiers are approaching, it seems as if it's all over for Guts, but at the very moment, Griffith swoops in and grabs Guts from clutches of certain death. But they are still not safe. Now both being on Griffith's horse, the horse is moving slower and the enemy is approaching them fast. They barely manage to get out of woods where the reinforcements was waiting with cannons, blowing the enemy riders in an instant. That night, the band of the Hawk celebrated their victory and Guts' official joining of the Hawks. At first, Guts is a bit off-put by the celebration and doesn't want to join them, but Pippin quickly changes his mind. And for the first time in his life, Guts is surrounded by the people that he can call comrades. After this wild night, Guts is once again away from everyone, sitting alone on the wall. He is approached by one of the members of the Hawks and has a conversation about how strange of a man Griffith is. How he is both good and evil, how he is both a kid and an adult, how he can be childish in one moment but a brilliant tactician in the next one, and how he is the sole reason why the Band of the Hawks is different from all other mercenary groups. Their conversation is cut short when they get interrupted by one of the Hawks telling Guts that Griffith is calling for him. Guts, of course, responds to Griffith's call, but instead of a conversation, he is met with a sight of Griffith's bare ass. In that moment, Griffith was taking a bath and forcefully invites Guts to join him by throwing a bucket full of water at him, to which Guts responds with also splashing water at Griffith, which results in a very childish scene of both of them having a water fight. After this water fight, they both sit down and Guts notices Griffith's strange necklace. Griffith tells Guts that he bought it a long time ago from a gypsy future teller. It's called the Egg of the King or the Behelit. It is said that the one who possesses the Behelit will become the king of the world in exchange for his own flesh and blood. Guts also asked Griffith why did he come back for him during that battle. Griffith tells him that having such an excellent soldier die would be a pity, but more importantly, Griffith needs him because all these victories are just small steps to his final goal, getting his own kingdom. And Guts already has a place in the future kingdom because he belongs to Griffith. After their conversation, Guts laughs at the idea that a commoner, or better yet, a kid his own age, wants to do something so outlandish, but somehow when he said that, Guts felt as if Griffith really meant that, and for a moment he ponders his own purpose and goals in his life. But the tension is quickly cut short when he is once again forcefully made to take a bath. One of the Hawks has came to inform Guts that Griffith has put 5 men under his command, meaning he is now a commander, and with his new position as a commander, he went straight back to the battlefield. The next chapter begins with a war between two kingdoms. One side is clearly overwhelming the other one. Even though they have less men, they have these giant armors that no normal soldier can pierce. Well, at least it was like that until the band of the Hawks came in to help. Guts single-handedly cuts through these armored soldiers that were causing so much trouble like it was nothing. After the battle, Guts was paraded by his unit for killing these armored enemy soldiers that were causing so much trouble for everyone else, but not everyone was happy with his reckless action. He gets into an argument with his superior, Casca. Casca calls him a dog that doesn't think about anyone except for himself, to which Guts grabs her, and in that moment Griffith appears and stops them. The next day, Griffith is acclimated to knighthood by the king he helped in the battle the previous day. Many of the royals of this kingdom are not happy with this because Griffith is just a commoner and commoners are not meant to be acclimated to knighthood. Now, as a knight, he fights on the behalf of the kingdom that gave him this title, and the Band of the Hawks is no longer just a band of mercenaries, they are now an official army. In his first war, the battle seems to be going well until one of the Hawks comes to inform Griffith that Nosferatu Zodd has been added to enemy forces. the legendary warrior that slaughtered thousands of men on the battlefield over a course of 100 years. Because of that, it is said that he is immortal. The first ones to meet this legendary warrior are none other than Guts' unit. Guts is furious that a single man has over 500 of his men stuck. His mind is quickly changed when one of his men managed to get back from the front line in a horrible state, his intestines falling out and half of his body missing, and before he dies he manages to inform others that Zodd the Nosferatu is in there. Of course, stubborn as he is, Guts tells his whole unit that he is going to kill him alone and no one is permitted to follow him. As he enters the room where all his men died, he sees a gruesome sight of men in full armor being sliced open in half. And then he sees the man responsible for all this, Zodd. Guts immediately charges him, but is swiftly thrown against the wall after a single swing of Zodd's sword. Zodd is impressed. Guts managed to parry a strike from him, so he puts even more power into his next attack that Guts barely dodges. He compliments Guts that not a single man in the last 50 years managed to stop his sword. In this moment, Guts realizes he can't defend himself from this monster, so instead he goes on offensive. Zodd is surprised by this reckless action and mocks Guts, but when their swords clash, Zodd realizes that he was never the target and Guts was always aiming to hit his sword that shattered after a single blow, and Guts manages to get a clean hit on him. Now Guts' sword being halfway into Zodd's body, he compliments Guts once again for being the first human in the whole history to drive a sword that deep into his body. And then he starts transforming into this half-bear, half-bull thing that shakes Guts to his very core. Now fully transformed and angry, he attacks Guts, and with a single punch, Guts is thrown across the whole room. He starts to lose hope, but is still dodging Zodd's attacks, even managing to score a hit of his own, but it was futile, since his sword can't even put a scratch on this demon. Zodd once again hits Guts, this time knocking him down for good. Again, he praises him for lasting this long, after which he immediately starts tearing Guts apart. That very moment, Griffith once again swoops in to save Guts' ass, and his men start shooting Zodd with a dozen of arrows to get his attention. When they see Zodd, they are all terrified, but under Griffith's command, they shoot another volley of arrows, making Zodd let go of Guts, but now even more furious for being disturbed in his battle, he charges at Griffith's men, killing the entire front line. Obviously, after seeing this slaughter, Griffith tells everyone to withdraw as he goes to save Guts. He manages to pick Guts up, but Zodd is not letting them leave this place alive. He starts charging them. Guts, even this badly wounded, still makes a quick plan of attack with Griffith, and as Zodd charges them, they jump to the sides, dodging his attack and cutting his neck and arm off in the process. Griffith sees this as the perfect chance to run away, so he calls out for Guts, but in this moment he is distracted and Zodd hits him with his tail, instantly knocking him out. Zodd, delighted that he found not one but two humans that could wound him, grabs his arm and hits Guts with it, also knocking him out after he just reattaches it as if nothing has happened. In this desperate situation, it seems as if all hope is lost as Zodd approaches Griffith ready to kill him. As he reaches for Griffith, he is stunned for a moment. He sees something that even he fears, the Behelit. For some reason, he decides not to kill them and rather he just punches a hole in the roof, grows a pair of wings, and warns Guts that when Griffith's ambition collapses, death will pay him a visit, a death that he will never escape. After this, he flies away, leaving Guts with many questions, but before he could think about what he just said, he collapses from his wounds. He goes to see if Griffith is okay, but he is pushed away by Casca that blames Guts for everything that has happened here. This is where I will leave this off. These few chapters we got a lot of information. Firstly, Griffith has a Behelit, a strong artifact, if it can be even called an artifact, that even a powerful 300-year-old demon fears. The warning that Zodd gives Guts might be a mystery to Guts, but we already saw how the Behelit works. In the most desperate moment of an individual's life, the Behelit can be activated with blood and summons the God Hand that can grant that individual a wish at the cost of a beloved person. Which means when Zod told Guts that if he's a true friend of Griffith's, he will be the sacrifice when his ambition collapses, or in other words, when he becomes desperate. And we know this will happen at some point because this was a prophecy, and also we already saw Griffith as the part of the God Hand in the first few chapters of the manga. And that's it. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and hopefully it won't take me 7 months to make another one.